सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Hari Om. Salutations to all. So we are seeing the results of this state of realization in this particular section, and we have come up to 422. Drishta dukkheshu anudvegaha vidyaya prastutam phalam. Whatever is seen is the result, the dukkha is the result of whatever is seen, and the udvega of that dukkha will not arise when this knowledge is clear. And what one had done earlier in the state of delusion, when one has awakened, then naturally one is not going to do or continue that those types of actions. Like when in the waking state, then the actions of the dream, they cease. So that is 422. Now 423. Vidya phalam syad asato nivrittihi pravrittirajnana phalam tadikshitam tadnyagnayoryan mrigatrishnikadau no ched vidam drishta phalam kimasmat. Vidya phalam syat asato nivrittihi. The result of the knowledge, the fruit of knowledge is freedom from what is unreal. Asato nivritti. Pravritti ajnana phalam tadikshitam. It is generally seen that action is a result of ignorance. Ajnana phalam. Tat jna agnayoho yan mriga trishnikadav. Now this is seen in somebody who is ignorant and knowledgeable. Example given is the mirage, mriga trishnika. A person who knows that this is a mirage, one will not run behind it. So action has ceased in that context. The action of seeking the water from the mirage, that has ceased. But the ignorant one who doesn't know it is sand there, actually there is no water, that person will run. So in the same way here, the one who is knowledgeable will withdraw from all that which is unreal. But one who is ignorant will continue to do the actions. No ched vidam drishta phalam kimasmat. If this no ched has to be connected to first line. If the knowledge does not lead me to withdrawal from the unreal, then what else is the benefit of this knowledge or the knower of this knowledge? What is the result of benefit of that? That is the literal meaning. In this, the first line, if you take independently also, is very powerful. Vidya phalam syad asato nivrittihi. The result of knowledge is, the fruit of knowledge is withdrawal from all which is harmful, unreal, illusory. Many educational institutions have this as their motto. Vidya phalam syat asato nivritti. Ignorance makes us do so many things in delusion, false notions, or even perversion. But when I have the right knowledge, Vidya, then all that which is unreal, I should withdraw from that. All that which is harmful, I should withdraw from it. Which is illusory, withdraw from it. No, but then we have to withdraw from everything then. No, we are talking here about those actions where, like the seasoned traveler in the desert will continue to walk and go to the destination what one has to reach. But those actions which are making that person run towards the mirage, those will stop. They should stop because one has understood, already there is no water, it's a mirage, it's just useless to run. Already one is tired going in the heat. Now one will run behind that mirage, exhaust more, not required. So in our life also, once I've understood something is harmful, at a simpler level, first we take that. What is harmful? The knowledge of that must help me to withdraw from it. Otherwise, the knowledge is incomplete, fruitless knowledge actually. Because the word used is phalam, vidya phalam. The fruit of this knowledge is withdrawal from the unreal. If I know something is harmful and still I am not able to withdraw from it, that means my knowledge is fruitless. Meaning the knowledge is dull. It is not coming to use when it should be coming to my use. So every time we say Tejasvina Vadhita Mastu, may my knowledge be bright and brilliant. So if I know, see, we know very clearly poison equal to death. So we withdraw. Who wants to do any attempt and play with it? No, no, one knows, array poison. No, but that is not your experience. You are just getting scared. You should try. Nobody says that. Nobody attempts also because it is poison. Now, how it may destroy some organ of mine or it may destroy my life, whatever it may be. Some knowledgeable people have said, wise people have said, I believe, and then don't engage in it. If still somebody is engaging in it, then the knowledge is useless. So many things in life we know are harmful. We don't withdraw only. What are the examples? All the six impurities are like that. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. All. They all are harmful. If I have clarity of knowledge, forget Brahmagyan. Here to is talking about Brahmagyan. That deeper level I will come to. But even a simpler level, who is that who doesn't know what is the uh, harm of anger? What is the destruction that greed causes? Indulgence, passion, lust, how it drains the body. Everybody knows. But that knowledge is not powerful because the mind still craves for that. Some vasana pressure is there or some uh, immediate gratification, the attachment to immediate gratification is there. So one is not able to withdraw. See what was said earlier, no? Vairagyasya phalam bodhaha. If vairagya is there, then bodha will happen. That bodha is that the result of that bodha is this asato nivritti, which was there said as vaira bodhasya uparati phalam. What was said as uparati there is called as nivritti here. Asatah nivritti is the same thought actually, just put in a different way. So if my knowledge doesn't help me to withdraw from what is harmful, that knowledge is dull. And what makes that knowledge dull? Either I have not thought through properly, or I have an immediate attachment, I have an attachment to immediate gratification, or worst, I am deriving pleasure out of that pain. You see, that is one part of human psychology. Human mind is like that. It wants to derive pleasure out of pain. How strange is that? Brahma Vidya, one who wants absolute truth, one who wants, should go beyond pleasure and pain. Meaning, go transcend the mind, beyond the mind. Mind itself is unreal. Then what mind experiences is further unreal. Which is what the deeper meaning of this line says in Vedantic terms. But at a simpler level, what is painful in that one is deriving pleasure. Look at the delusion. That is called moha. Alcohol will destroy me, but I will derive pleasure out of that. Cigarette will destroy, I will derive pleasure out of that. Anger will destroy, I still derive pleasure out of that. And boast about it also after that. Wow. See the way Maya plays, what a trick it is. Boast about it. Have competition between two people. How many pegs, how many shots you can drink without getting affected. Competition. And then boast, I took 10, I took 15, whatever. I don't know how much the number it can be, but people do. How many cigarettes can you smoke in a day? I can smoke this many. Boast about it. I fired that person. When I fired, that person was trembling. Next time the person won't dare to talk to me like that. Gave him royally my peace of mind. Boast about it. Array, what is harmful, I should just withdraw from it. Forget indulging in it and then deriving pleasure and then boasting about it. That is all such deep level of attachment, extrovertedness. Where will one come to the self then? Far away one has been thrown by the mind somewhere. So if that knowledge is clear, if I don't have immediate attachment to sense, gratification and immediate pleasure, and I don't derive pleasure out of what is painful. What is painful is to be seen as painful. That is called jnana. And it is painful. All the six impurities are painful. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. All are a source of pain. And they will sustain in our mind so long as I think they are necessary for my happiness, or they are necessary so that people don't exploit me. Some justification exists in the head for them to be there. But most of the time we get exploited by it. That is the strange thing. We want to retain these six so that people don't exploit us. But we are exploited by these six. How many people see that? Anger is exploiting me only. My potential gets destroyed by anger. No, but Swamiji, anger should be there. Otherwise, people will take me for granted and, they should be scared of me. If they are not scared of me, they cannot be kept in control, in check. Now, that anger, if I am going to get disturbed from inside, I may manage to keep few people in check, but the price that I am paying is very heavy. There are other methods of putting people in control. Systems have to be set, they have to be made accountable, they have to be, whatever those systems can be set up. Accountability, reporting, performance-based rewarding, all that. There are things which one can set up. You may say, no, but human mind can circumvent all systems. That is possible. There's no doubt. But why are we paying the price for somebody else's smartness there? It's not real smartness. It is manipulating, twisting, turning. I'm talking as far as seeker is concerned. What a role I have to play. I have to show anger or I have to use aggression in a role that I have to play. That Bhagavan told Arjun, you fight, you have to kill them because that's the role. But he said inside you don't have any hurt, revenge, desire for kingdom, nothing. You do it as just a duty, full stop. So if I do it as a duty, it will end then and there. But if I psychologically get affected, it will pain me only. So if I have clarity that I want peace in life, my goal is realization, or I want to be strong, integrated personality, whatever is my goal, spiritually speaking, God realization, call whatever name. For that, what is the means? Means is a mind which is pure, mind which is single pointed, which has dispassion. Then I have to cultivate that type of a mind. It cannot be that the worldly way of living continues and spiritual life I will reach the goal. It is impossible. They are two opposite directions. That's why he says, if you have got clear knowledge, asata nivritti, one has to withdraw from the unreal. Pravritti ajnana phalam tadikshitam. It is very clearly seen that if you still engage in it, that is because of ignorance or some delusion that one is having. No, but it will, if I remove all these six impurities, then so I will become sadhu only. That's what you want, no? That's what one wants to become. Mind has to become pure to realize the self. Now you decide what one wants. If one says, no, I don't want to be sadhu, okay, then continue. No problem. But if you say, no, I want to be sadhu, not in the formal sense necessarily, but sadhu means good, and sadhu means one is abiding in the self. So if I want that, then this is the only means. Vidya phalam syad asato nivritti. So at Vedantic level, what is asat? What does not exist in three periods of time is called asat, because it's the opposite of sat. What exists in three periods of time, which is changeless, is sat. So opposite of that is asat. So whatever is not permanent, withdraw from that. Oh, but there's nothing permanent. Correct. That's what it is. Whole world is perishable, including this body, mind, intellect. Everything is perishable. Withdraw from that. In the seat of contemplation, no attachment to anything that is perishable. Even thoughts come, thoughts go. Feelings come, feelings go. No attachment. Watch. Who are you? The Sakshi. What is the nature of Sakshi? Sat Chit Anand. Bas. So, Nivritti, withdraw. If I engage in a thought, if I add to more thoughts, if I continue the selfish way of living, if I continue all my delusions, justifications, then that is Ajnana Phalam. It is the result of some ignorance and delusion only. I have not thought clearly, I have not thought properly. Ajnana Phalam. So the difference between the ignorant and the knowledgeable is explained through this analogy of the mirage. And when there is a mirage and it is known as a mirage, running behind it stops. No, why don't I run behind it for just fun? Knowing it is not there, let me just run. If you have that much extra energy, please do. Here there is no energy. How much energy is required to withdraw and realize the self? So one is trying to put the energy to reach that destination. Also, because not only energy, it is also a question of intensity. I want to know the truth intensely. Mumukshutvam, no, that is called. Burning desire to be liberated is there. Because enough one has seen in the world. Why will one run towards that? If you remember, Vivek Chudamani had in the beginning, in the disciples' question, what was the state in which the disciple came to the master? Durvara samsara davagni taptam. I am being roasted in the forest fire of this world. Dodhuya manam duradrishtavatehi. Been, tossed about by powerful cyclonic winds. Bhitam, I am scared. Prapannam, I come to seek your refuge. Paripahi mrityo, please save me from this realm of change and death. Sharanya manyad yadaham na jane. I don't know any other refuge. I come to you, O teacher. Now with that mind, when somebody has come to the Guru, why will that person want to run into the forest fire? Who is the madman who runs? Already I am suffering in the forest fire, so I am trying to get relieved from that, so went to the teacher. Now having got the knowledge that this samsara is unreal, this is a mithya and it is not even existing, it is an appearance of the truth. Now why will one run towards that? Again, if one is running towards it, it only means that one did not come with proper vivek and vairagya. One came just temporarily in some impulsive moment, some disappointment, some dejection, some sadness, and then one ran and came to the teacher. And now the mind has become little quieter. So one feels, after all, it was not so bad. Let me go back. Go back to forest fire. Who will do that? Only somebody who deluded will do that, whose delusion is not got clear. You see, ordinary, sometimes simpler things in life also we learn our lessons. You burn your finger, second time nobody puts finger in the fire. We are burnt once. How many times in samsar we got burnt, roasted, cooked also, deep fried. Still the mind wants to go. Then what can be said? The mind is still under power of Maya only, delusion. How many times in relationship there are conflicts? Can't stay together, people divorce each other also. Again they'll get into some relationship, again spend some time, again get conflict, again, how much it will go on and on and on. I'm not saying don't have relationships or don't work in the world. One can do because there's no other choice. One will have to serve. But the bhav is there is nothing that I need from the world. Asato nivritti means that all the false expectations which are in the head, withdraw from it. Because they are the cause of sorrow. Not by itself anything out there. Because there's nothing out there. It's all in here only. So asato nivritti has two meanings. One is the external world of objects, people, situations on which my psychological happiness depends, and I think that is real. So with Vedantic understanding, either understand that this is an illusion because it doesn't exist, can be experienced only in samadhi. While I am seeing through the senses, I will see the world. So it exists. But I can treat it as an illusion and stop running behind it. So that is one attitude. Like the mirage example given here, the seasoned traveler also will see the mirage. It is not that the seasoned traveler will not see the mirage, will see, but knows that there is nothing there. So will not run behind it. So the withdrawal has happened. Mentally the withdrawal, the dependency on it for happiness is gone. So that is one meaning of asato nivritti, that it is an illusion. Because only three choices I have. Either I think the world is real, so as long as I think world is real, I will run behind it, I will be dependent on it for happiness. Or I see the world as an illusion, so I stop running behind it. Then what will happen? I can turn within. And when I turn within, I realize what world is not even existing. In Samadhi Avastha, one experiences the bliss of the self, world literally disappears. So Vidya Phalam Syat Asato Nivritti. So one meaning of asat is that world outside. Now I'm saying outside also because of the division of the body. Otherwise there's no outside. There's all inside here, as I said before. But just because the body is there, so there is an outside the body and there is inside in the mind. So outside, so asato nivritti, that is one aspect. Second aspect is asat is all the false notions, delusions, justifications, wrong ideas in my head here. Withdraw from all those. Because it is those which sustain this delusion and ignorance. Like I said earlier, we derive pleasure out of pain also. Everywhere, from body level to mind level to intellectual level, human being is very weird. Human being loves to be in sorrow and derive pleasure out of that. Loves to make others miserable and derive pleasure out of that. Such a sadistic mindset it is. And feels happy, very happy. Pain. But our true nature is absolute bliss. One has forgotten that part. That's why ignorance, that is. So pravritti, ajnana phalam tadikshitam. So if I am engaging in all those are all wrong notions which are asat in the head. I should withdraw from all of them. So at simpler level, we said whatever is harmful, I should learn to withdraw from that. No, but harmful is very relative. What is harmful to you may not be harmful to others. Oh. There are certain things which are universally harmful. Accept it or not. Fire is harmful to everybody. Whoever puts the hand in fire, it will be burning only. Like that, values, when I violate, it will harm, whether I acknowledge it or not. It will harm. There is no question about it. Harmful substances, when I take, it will harm. If I don't live according to the cycle of the sun, my body will go through harm. If I don't get up early, sleep early, the body will go through and the one will pay the price for it. No, but I'm happy to pay the price. Continue, please. No problem. I'm happy to go back to that forest fire and suffer. Continue. In case one has got enough mumukshutvam, saying enough now, how much will I keep doing this? Coming, going, stop it. That person comes to this. And last line here says, no ched vidam drishtaphalam kimasmat. What is the benefit if this has not happened? If the withdrawal from the asat has not happened, then what is the benefit of this knowledge? It is just one intellectual burden. You know, the example Shankaracharya ji gives for that is, it's like the donkey carrying golden bricks. What is it to the donkey? It is extra burden. So I know so many things in the world. I know Vedanta also. What has it done to me? Has it led to my withdrawal from all that which is harmful, which is illusory, and which ultimately is unreal? If it is not helping me to do that, that knowledge is useless. That pursuit only is worthless pursuit, because then I am fooling myself that I am a seeker when I am actually not seeking. I am running behind the world. No, but that intensity we have to build slowly. See, even if one is building the intensity slowly, from what is harmful to some extent one will withdraw or not. If I am student of Vedant and I don't want to withdraw from things which harm my body, I don't want to withdraw from things which will destroy my vitality, prana shakti. I don't want to withdraw from the impulsiveness of my mind. I don't want to withdraw from the false values of my intellect. And I don't want to even withdraw from the world in the seat of meditation and experience samadhi. Then what do I want? Then that knowledge is absolutely useless. And keeping all these things in mind, I am studying, then I am blaming that knowledge only. That's the strange part. You see how the human mind functions. One will say, I studied Vedanta for so many years, but nothing happened. Why nothing happened? Not because the knowledge is useless. Because I am not ready to drop. What was said earlier, no, Vairagyasya phalam bodhaha, bodhasya uparati phalam. I should be ready to drop. Then that's the beauty of knowledge. I'm not ready to drop only. Some justification, some vasana, some internal pressure, one continues. It's like doctor who is treating the patients knows very well, is treating somebody for liver cirrhosis and for lung problems and respiratory issues and all that, and goes in the finish the clinic, goes in the night to the club, smoke away, drink away to glory. What is the use of that knowledge? Just earning some money, treating some people, but I am doing the same thing. Then that knowledge has not transformed my life. Then it is called what Vivek Chudamani said earlier, bhuktaye natu muktaye. It is only for filling the belly. So that bhukti there doesn't mean only food. It means emotional bhukti, intellectual bhukti also. That I feel some good, sense of accomplishment. That I am a doctor, I am this, I am that. I cured so many patients. What about you? No, I drink and smoke. That is okay. So same way, I am studying Vedant, I am a seeker, I can talk on this book, I can talk on that book, I won this and I won that award, and that will go on. But what about you? Asato Nivritti happened in some way or the other? No, that I am not. I am still young. I want to see the world still. I want to enjoy. Vairagya will anyway come one day. And through enjoyment is the path of Vairagya. All kinds of justification will be there. How can we get Vairagya without experiencing something? So then all these justifications, they remain in the head. And that knowledge doesn't help me to withdraw at all. Here it is very spontaneous withdrawal. See, this is a sign of a realized person. That is what we are seeing. What is their identification with the body? How do they live? What is their vision? In that context, we are seeing that they live having withdrawn their mind from the unreal. So when they experience the self in the state of samadhi, when the whole world literally disappears, that is one level of withdrawal, which is complete withdrawal. When they come out, they know this is entirely illusory. It doesn't exist also. It is not real. So for a seeker, it is a sadhana to see the world as an illusion. For a realized master, the world is not an illusion. The world is an appearance of the same divine truth. So their experience is quite different in the sense that one is they have not just falsified the world, but they are seeing the world as an appearance of the truth. We have to see the world as an illusion. From the state of reality we have given to the world, where we depend on the world, to illusory state we have to come to. For us, that is asato nivritti. And from there we come to the experience of samadhi. So from real to illusory to from the real to the illusory to the unreal. After samadhi, the fourth step is what? Because some prarabdha karma, one will come out of that state to the body level. Then one sees the whole world as appearance of the real. Appearance of that one supreme self. Ekam rupam bahudha yak karoti is one form which appears as all these, so many. So that is the state of these Mahatmas. So they have withdrawn internally, their vision has completely changed. So whatever names and forms also they see the appearance of Brahman only. Like an earlier example we had discussed some time back, that when somebody asked Gurudev that what is this? Gurudev said this is existence in the form of a mango tree. Now that is their experience. When somebody said that Swamiji, you came from Pune, you are going to Hyderabad, he said, I don't go anywhere. Yesterday Pune was in front of me, tomorrow Hyderabad will be in front of me. So these are glimpses of that state where they see themselves as pure consciousness, then they see the whole world as an appearance of that only. So this is the result of the knowledge, the complete withdrawal from the unreal. And what is the real, that is only seen. Like not to see the snake, but to see the rope alone. To see the rope is samadhi avastha. But to see the snake as an appearance of the rope is having come out of samadhi. And to see the snake as a snake is the state of delusion. So, four stages that we saw, where I see the world as real and I want happiness out of it. It is like seeing the snake as real and getting affected by it. From that, I come to illusion that this is an illusion, this is not real. Seeing the snake as an illusion is the sadhana, so that I don't get affected by it. Then I can inquire what is it that is appearing as the snake. From there, one understands that there is a rope, so one tries to contemplate, one gets samadhi avastha, one experiences the self. There one realizes no snake at all, zero. There's nothing called snake, there's only rope. But some prarabdha karma, one may still come out into the state of the body. Then one sees the snake, but one is not affected by it at all. Now it is not a question of sadhana. Now it is their realized experience that the snake is harmless because it's only rope manifesting. So there's no danger, there's nothing. No temptation, no danger, no attachment, no aversion. So this is called asato vidya phalam syat asato nivritti. In stages, this nivritti happens from real to illusion to unreal to appearance of the real. Four stages. Vidya phalam syat asato nivrittihi. Now continuing that ahead. Ajnana hridaya granthehe vinasho yadyasheshatah अनिच्छोर विषय किन्नो प्रवृत्ते कारणम स्वतः अज्ञान हृदय ग्रंथे विनाशो अशेषतः यद विनाशः the knots of the heart, which are three: ignorance, desire, action, avidya, kama, karma. All three, when they are destroyed without any, what is it called, remainder, without anything remaining there, from the root it is destroyed, because ignorance is the root cause. So when that is destroyed, ajnana hridaya granthe vinasho yad asheshatah, then anichoho vishaya kimnu, this person who is an anichu, seeker here is called anichu. Who is anichu? Desireless. Now for such a desireless person, see, ignorance causes desire, desire causes action. That is called hridaya granthi. Now if ignorance is destroyed, the person becomes desireless. So he says anichoho vishaya kimnu pravritte karanam swataha. One who is desireless, one who has vairagya, what will prompt that person now to run behind objects, to engage with them? Pravritte karanam swataha. It's a rhetorical question saying that nothing will prompt, means that person doesn't get extroverted. Like how one is before one comes to sadhana, before one understands this is an illusion, there one thinks it is real and then one runs behind it. Craves and feels that if I don't get this, my life is miserable. I have not lived a full life. I have missed something in life. There's only one thing that one can miss in life, actually speaking. That is Brahman. And the truth is, I can never miss Brahman. How strange. I can never miss Brahman because that is my nature. But when I'm identified with the body, that is the main thing which I miss. There's nothing else worth missing in this world. No, but I missed, seeing that movie. It makes no difference. I missed going to that place. No difference it will make. I miss traveling right now. Don't worry. You are at home already. Home is your true home. Go home. That's all. 21 days lockdown. Now the lockdown may extend also. Be happy. Time to go within. That's all. For a seeker, so it is joy only. For somebody else, it may be frustration. कि अरे बिठा दिया घर में. For a seeker, no need to complain. Because anyway, this is what we have to do. We have to withdraw. Chalo, Bhagwan stopped everything now for us. No need to go out. Sit quietly. Do satsang. Do japa. Do puja. Do withdrawal. Read good books. Spend time with the family. What else to do? Why complain? Nothing to complain. So you cannot miss anything in life actually. There's nothing worth missing because anyway it is all unreal, illusory. No, Swamiji, you are saying intellectual, it is all intellectually fine, but we still miss. Okay, that means knowledge is still not clear. What can you miss? Nothing you can miss. And in trying to not miss out the worldly things, what am I missing? I am missing Brahman. Now you decide what to miss. See, we miss out sadhana also because of these things, no? Because I run behind work, I run behind money, I run behind some achievement, some project, something I keep running behind. I don't want to miss this, I don't want to miss that. In that process, sadhana, so I'm missing. Consistency in sadhana goes for a toss many times. Every day to do certain amount of japa, certain amount of meditation or study, etc., it goes out of the window. Sadhana is not worth missing. Sadhya, which is Brahman, is not worth missing. And bhav of sadhak, that I am a seeker who has to realize this, that is not worth missing. Maximum three things if you want to say, but they all are one actually. Sadhak, sadhana and sadhya are one only. Only these three are worth missing in life. That if I am missing something really, it is these three. I should strive to get these. Rest of it is anyway illusory, part of illusion. What? No, I'm not experiencing the snake fully. I experienced the eye of the snake and the hood of the snake, but the body and tail I missed out. How funny is that? See, at least in the buddhi, there must be some clarity. Then the heart can be convinced. And with persuasion and grace of God, it will change. In buddhi only, if I have enough value for the world, then of course I will miss. See, functionally speaking, there will be people at a relative level, people who will ask. There, if you say, yes, I missed something, okay, internally one knows nothing happened. Or is it not hypocrisy? No, it is not. Like we tell children or not. Sometimes you play with the child says, did you enjoy? We say, yeah, I enjoyed. And 3 days you don't play with the child. And the child says, did you miss me? Did you miss the game we played? You say, yeah, I missed you. I missed the game we played. The child feels happy. Did you really miss the game? Nothing. Because there are higher things in life. So functionally one may say, internally there's nothing. Now then why should I say functionally? It will hurt the child. I didn't miss you at all. A child feels sad, says, I'm not important in your life. So in the world, if Gurudev tells somebody, yes, I missed you, it is there. There is love in the heart. He is telling you he missed you. That's all. But do you really think he will miss? Nothing. One who is realized Brahman says everything is appearance of the Lord only. At transactional level, one will have certain exchange of emotions that will continue. That there is nothing issue, no issue in that. As long as from inside one is safe, secure, one has realized the absolute, nothing is there to miss in the world. So one nice incident happened in Gurudev's life. So there is one devotee who did something wrong. Now the devotee wanted to punish herself. So the devotee said, I love Gurudev a lot, and she used to write letters to Gurudev. So she said, for next 1 month, I will not write any letters to Gurudev. So she didn't write. After 1 month, she wrote a letter. She didn't get a reply for 2 months. Gurudev is otherwise not like that. He will instantly reply. It will come very promptly. The reply will come. 2 months, he didn't write. Now this person got disturbed. What happened? Already 1 month was difficult for her to cut without writing letters. Now another 2 months, no reply came from Gurudev. So she is also not writing now. At the end of the 2 months, she asked Gurudev that what happened. You know what he said? He said, you did something wrong. You wanted to pay a price for it. You stopped writing letters to me and you deprived me. And you took a decision on your own without consulting me. So now this is your punishment, that I won't write to you for 2 months. Now, this is I'm giving this example because there is a transactional level. There is love in the heart. There is a way to teach certain things. You know, whenever people met Gurudev, they used to feel that for him I am very special. But if you actually see, why are they special to Gurudev? Not because what they are special to Gurudev because he sees the same Brahman in all of them. So his love is unconditional. There is no boundary to his love. So in the presence of that master, people feel special. It is not like how we hold people special and unspecial because we have certain attachment aversion. It is not like that. For them, it is same truth appearing everywhere. Names and forms are different, roles are different. So appropriately, they will relate in the roles. But the love in their heart has no boundaries. Because they are abiding in Brahman, they don't really miss people as individuals because they are seeing people as appearances of Brahman only. And still those people will feel love. That is a beautiful state. So what is worth missing? There is nothing worth missing in this world. Realize Brahman and everything is fulfilled. So the shloka here says, Anichoho Vishaya Kimno. For the person who is desireless, what is that person going to miss? And what is that person going to run after and do actions? Nothing. Because all the three are gone. Avidya is gone. So selfish desires and expectations gone. Selfish, restless activity also gone. If they are still acting, it is because of compassion, grace, unlimited love. They don't want anything out of it. Their sense of ego is destroyed. So that is the state of the great masters and how they live. So some masters are like this, like Gurudev, who express the love to everybody who comes and who will treat appropriately. Sometimes he will scold also, get angry also, but all that is known as an illusion. It is not real. Real is only one Brahman and that is all that exists. That's it. That is one level of experience and expression. The other level will be the other extreme, where sometimes the masters will be in complete solitude, will have no connection with people. Not because they hate people or they have some fear or they are escaping from people. No, because they like to revel in the state of the self. They don't want to come to duality. And they don't want to increase the transactional level relationship. Because then one has to do some things. So you will find some of them, they will not encourage any relationships. Nisargadatta Maharaj used to throw stones at people. If anybody comes near him, so at one stage in his life, he used to throw stones because he didn't want to encourage the crowd only. No people should come. For a long time, Ramana Maharshi wouldn't allow people to come. If you go to Tiruvannamalai even today, there's an ashram down there. Then there's Virupaksha Gufa and there's a Skandashram. Now when people started coming more and more down, he went up. Virupaksha, then Virupaksha to Skanda, he went up. So it is not escaping, it is not having hatred against people. The same Ramana Maharshi, when he had this, what is that, sarcoma, if you should read the last day of Bhagavan. Bhagavan means Ramana Maharshi. Last day. That room is also there even now there in Tiruvannamalai ashram, where on the cot he was reclining and he was in excruciating pain. Doctors have given up because now sarcoma has gone through the whole body. He is going to die now. 2 times operation already done. Now nothing can be done. Now, last day of Bhagwan, he is not able to even sit. He is reclining on the cot. But he says, people have come to have my darshan. I will give darshan. With all great effort, he manages to turn on the cot and give darshan to people. And he tells people, put a pillow below my head. I should be able to see them. They should be able to see me. That is compassion only. No? Just before the body is dropping, he wants as many people who have come. They know that Mahatma is going to drop the body. So from far and wide, people have come. Huge number of people. Line is there. So the same master who kept going up and withdrawing, was the same master doing this. So that's what I'm trying to say, that it may appear two extreme reactions, but both are out of love only. And nothing they miss. And the best part is, in their presence, we miss nothing. What we feel incomplete in the world out there, I need this, I need that. The moment we go in the presence of the master, nothing, we don't miss anything. Because their fullness, for some time, influences us. Mind becomes quiet, we feel happy, we are able to connect to that self also in the presence of the master. So this is their bhav, this is their experience, how they lived in this life. Now why I'm saying all these things? Because this is what truly is worth life living. Life is worth living for this. So this should become my goal. That if there is something worth striving for, it is this Brahman. It is this supreme truth, God, reality, whatever you call. It is that alone which is worth striving. Everything else is Jadavastu, it is inert, perishable. If I don't see it as Brahman, it is perishable. Why run behind it so much? So the result of this knowledge is freedom from ignorance, freedom from desire, freedom from action, selfish actions. And it is replaced with what? It is replaced with knowledge, knowledge of the self, replaced with unlimited compassion, which brings the desire to serve. So desire is replaced with compassion, and action, selfish action, is replaced with selfless service. That's the transformation. And such people's lives, after many centuries, decades, also we still follow their life, their teaching, because it is universal. Krishna gave the Gita 6,000 years ago. If we want to date it, then okay, 5,000, 6,000 years, whatever it is. Vishwamitra Rishi, to him the Veda mantra Gayatri was revealed. Today also we are chanting. They say Vedic knowledge is 10,000 year old. 10,000, not 10,000 year, 12,000 actually. 10,000 BCE, the Saraswati river is dated to. Imagine something 10,000 years old, that when I chant the Gayatri Mantra, I am connecting myself to that knowledge which is connected 10,000 years back, it was revealed. That is historically, if one wants. Otherwise, Vedic knowledge is timeless, beginningless, endless. So, what is really worth seeking is such a life. And these are the qualities of such a person. So, for today, I will stop here and we will continue tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.